Hello, welcome everybody to episode 4 of the Brotherhood Talks. We are so very happy and excited and elated and enthusiastic and all of those other E words to have Kim Melendez here from our college counseling center. So we're going to clap it up real quick, you know. We will be talking about anxiety and how to beat anxiety from an emotional intelligence perspective. And today we'll be talking about what do we talk about today?
We're going to talk about anxiety, emotional intelligence, but I'm going to do my spiel.
No, what's
Oh,
our session today?
oh my gosh. I'm having a brain fart.
I forgot to decision making.
Thank you.
There it is. Blame it on a long
Yes,
work day.
yes. Impulsive decisions.
Right. So impulsive decision making.
Correct.
You might- yeah. Sometimes you gotta get it in there. So yeah. So it's super relaxed. I know Kim came prepared, y'all. She got the printouts, but it's chill. We're on the view right now. Okay.
It's just a type A personality. It's what it is. And it's I was just, my heart was pouring out when I was writing this, so it's all from
I
the
love
heart.
it. We want the heart today.
Yes.
So we've had some episodes prior to you. The first was emotional intelligence.
Mm.
The second was on confidence. The third was on personal image
Mm.
and its relation to self-esteem.
Love it.
And so now we're talking about anxiety, and we'll be talking about decision making today. And it's sort of all of the conversations sort of lead into each other. Um, so in terms of anxiety, what would you say for students and for adults, for anyone, right? What would you say are some tools that we can use to defeat anxiety?
I think awareness is the first one.
Oh, yes.
Awareness that anxiety is in a cycle, right? And I think once we understand that, we can halt that cycle. And how that cycle starts is we have something that gets us anxious, right? We have that test, we have that paper, we
Mhm.
have that date, whatever it is that's getting us anxious. It usually starts with fear of the unknown, right?
Mm.
That's what builds the anxiety. So when that cycle starts and we feel ourselves getting anxious, we have to have a little bit of body awareness, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes subconsciously the anxiety starts, but I think we have to be aware. Does your tummy hurt? Do you get a headache?
Mhm.
Do you feel yourself going to the bathroom?
Mhm.
Those should be our signs that we're like, okay, this is happening, so I must be feeling anxious, right?
Mhm.
So in order for us to stop that cycle, tend to those emotions,
Mhm.
tend to those body feelings.
Mhm.
Mind and body are sacredly connected.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if we're aware of what's going on in the body, we can kind of get a sense or try to control what's going on in the mind. So self care is a big piece of it. In the workshop, we did probably about 5 different techniques that you can use to kind of halt those body sensations. We did systematic relaxation,
Mhm.
starting from the top of your head, going all the way down to your feet, or vice versa.
Is that a body scan?
Kind of like a body
Okay.
scan. Body scan is kind of what you do first. Kind of
Right.
where am I feeling that emotion? Is my tummy hurting? Am I going to the bathroom? Am I getting a headache?
And the tummy is a
You
prevalent space for anxiety, right?
absolutely right.
Mhm.
There's the vagus nerve that goes from the stomach to the brain that
Mhm.
people don't realize,
Mhm.
and those messages go up and down. So doing that body scan and then saying, okay, let me do that systematic relaxation. And I'm
Mhm.
telling you, 9 times out of 10, you will fall asleep by the time you get to
Right.
even like midway.
Mhm.
We also did box breathing, which is kind of visualizing a box, going up one side, breathing
Mhm.
in, holding for 4 seconds, going out.
Mhm.
And I was telling the group that the more noise you make going in and out, the more relaxed you're going to get. And if I took your blood pressure or your heart rate prior to you doing that box breathing, sure enough, we're going to see it decrease
So the
dramatically.
the sighing and the box breathing is really important because you're
Absolutely. That,
releasing that energy. Yeah. Mhm.
really deeply making those sounds that
Okay.
really lowers your heart rate. And
This
I,
makes me so excited, y'all. I'm just so happy Kim is here, y'all. Let's talk about these tools.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. And what else did we do? We did visualization.
Mm.
So, as simple as where's your happy place, Roosevelt?
Ooh, water.
Okay. So picture yourself sitting on the beach in the
Mm-hmm.
most
I'll be
beautiful.
there November 16th.
There you go. So promise me you'll sit at the beach and do that box breathing.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, it could be your bed. It could be imagining yourself in a forest, on the
Mm-hmm.
beach, wherever. But just, find a safe place to sit. Close your eyes. If you don't feel safe to close your eyes, just kind of soften your gaze, maybe look down, do that box breathing, and picture yourself in that beautiful place. And that too also lowers your heart rate as well.
Okay.
So, and I think the last piece that we shared with the group when we did the workshop was stopping negative thinking.
Yeah.
And we passed around some cards that had some mindful messages on them.
Powerful.
And folks were in the room. You would have thought I was doing some kind of witchcraft, voodoo, whatever you want to call it, because every time someone picked a card, they were like, "Oh,
This
oh,
is
wait
for
a minute."
me.
Yep. And they shared. They shared with the group
Mm-hmm.
and talked about why it resonated with them, that message.
Mm-hmm.
And after the group is over, I asked some of them how they felt about others sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And they found it very profound that folks were sharing. They felt it was a safe space. They really could talk about how it resonated with them. And, you saw kind of a domino effect. More and more people were sharing in the room. So
I love
just
it.
a little toolkit right there for you for anxiety.
I love
That's
it.
all
I
you
love
need.
it. I love it. Um, Post pandemic, we've become so aware of anxiety and its impact
Mm.
on us. Um, After the pandemic or during the pandemic, I think a lot of people became aware of what was happening within their own bodies.
Mm.
One,
Mm.
because we were paying attention to the
We had,
coronavirus,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And making sure that, hey, and then, is this headache connected to,
Mm-hmm.
is my stuffy nose connected to,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think we were much more hyper aware, right,
Absolutely.
of what was happening in our body, but also the grief, the trauma associated with that time.
Mm.
I think many people were feeling it within themselves, and it was sort of collective, right? I know there were some days that I would pick up the phone and I'd call some friends or family, and they're like, "Are you feeling that too? Are you
Mm-hmm.
sensing that too?"
Mm.
Um, and so, given that we're now in a space in the world where I think we're so much more aware of anxiety and how it impacts us, how it impacts our body, where do you see sort of emotional intelligence sort of like increasing, right? And what I mean by that is everyone's talking about wellness now. Everybody's a
Makes me
counselor,
so
a
happy.
therapist, everybody's got the answer. So, where do you see emotional intelligence sort of like pushing the world and the field of wellness, the field of therapy, all of this stuff? Like, where do you see this going? What's your prediction?
I think it's great because I think the pandemic taught us that sometimes we have to go back to basics,
Mm.
right? And one of my favorite parts, and you and I are both lovers of EI,
Yes.
emotional intelligence, or some people know it as EQ.
EQ. Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite parts of it is empathy.
Mm.
And I think when we all had that collective paralysis, we had that collective loss,
Mm-hmm.
we saw that the world was so much bigger than just ourselves. I think for a while we were just in a really egocentric place.
Yeah.
But when we were seeing massive loss, I think it did awaken in many people like, wow, this is so much bigger than me. It's global,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I'm so proud of the mental health field, and I'm proud of folks that were almost seemed like they were untouchable, like celebrities and athletes coming out and saying, I am taking a break because of my mental health, or
Yeah.
I'm leaving this field because of my mental health.
Yeah.
But going back to my previous point, empathy, showing just others care and concern. I saw so many neighbors knocking on doors, bringing meals, things like that, and family members reunifying that hadn't before.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually my first lesson in my class that I teach at John Jay, even though I teach a course called The Human Aspect of the Law, because I'm a
Okay.
social worker and I'm a
Okay.
forensic social worker.
Mm-hmm.
And the first lesson I teach is empathy in the course. And having students tell me what the difference is between sympathy and empathy,
Yeah.
and how empathy relates to their future role in the criminal justice field.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think all classes should start with empathy, no matter what field that you're in. But that's one of the five key elements of EI is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
I love it.
So,
So empathy is sort of what's next for us. Having folks, my understanding of empathy, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is putting myself in someone else's shoes and sort of feeling what they would feel,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Seeing through their eyes,
Right.
right?
Right. And
Um,
not necessarily having gone through it yourself. So
yes.
like let's say for instance, quick example, as a man having a friend or a family member that had a miscarriage,
Mm-hmm.
something you will never be able to experience yourself, but you can truly put yourself in that person's shoes with that
Right.
grief and
Right.
so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Where sympathy
Mm-hmm.
is maybe another woman that has gone through a miscarriage and saying, wow, I really know kind of where you are and I
Yeah.
can feel what you feel. But
Yeah.
they're very close, and a lot of people use them interchangeably.
Mm-hmm. This is really interesting. In terms of anxiety, and this is the last thing I'll say
Hmm.
around anxiety, and then we'll move to decision making. In terms of anxiety, what would you say for young people is one of the biggest causes for anxiety?
Fear of the unknown, worrying about things that have yet to happen, a
Mm.
lot of catastrophizing. That's another great term,
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to fail the course. Or he or she or they are going to reject me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not giving themselves the chance to kind of trust the process.
What is the impact of social media on
Oof,
anxiety?
oof. What a beauty and a beast, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think there's a lot of FOMO, right?
absolutely.
But there's
For
also,
those of you who don't know what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out. Okay.
right? Folks are putting these pictures on there about these amazing things that they do, whatever. But I often tell students that come into the counseling center, you know how many videos that person took to get that shot that they're putting there, or how many selfies they took to get that one shot, how many angles, camera,
It's crazy.
makeup. Come on, we all do
And
it.
and here's the thing, and I've heard so many influencers say it. Social media is not real.
No, no.
It's another world that people
Yes.
get to be in and live
Yeah,
in and
yeah.
embrace for a while. But when those cameras go off, there are people with feelings and
Absolutely.
lives and tragedies and
Yes.
things we know nothing about, right?
Yes. Yes.
That were behind that camera. And so, it's helpful. One of the things that I share with students is it's helpful to think of social media as a portfolio
Mhm.
page,
Mhm.
right? Like if I was an artist and I was going to a gallery, I
Beautifully
would
said.
bring you the best photos that I have.
Absolutely.
I won't show you the mess ups. I won't show you
Of
the
course.
mistakes. I won't show you the things that I'm still working on in
Mhm.
my studio, right? My
Mhm.
personal studio. You won't see them because this is my portfolio. These are the best parts of me.
Beautifully said.
Um, so, and when we think about it that way, I think it's easy. What I was getting at with my first question was, I think in my experiences, comparison is one of the things that induce anxiety for students.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, am I good enough? And you're
Mm.
asking yourself these questions.
Mhm.
Um, and when you can sort of get perspective that, hey, these folks who've got 1 million followers, you know, they have lives outside of this space.
Absolutely.
It just gives you a bigger picture,
Sure.
big picture thinking around. Um, Maybe I shouldn't have anxiety about someone I don't even know.
Clearly. Clearly.
you
But I
know?
love that how what you said, because that's exactly what I use Instagram for. I'm a kind of a amateur photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And I put photos up there of my dog or a vacation, but I
Yeah,
put the very best
the very
ones.
best.
That's it.
Yeah.
But it's for me, for me to enjoy. And if you follow me, great. You want to
And
follow
that's a
me?
healthy way to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is for me, not
Mm-hmm.
so I can get some likes and, go viral.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I guess this brings us then to decision making,
Yeah.
um, impulsive decision making,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and or compulsive decision making. And
Mm-hmm.
one, can you tell us the difference? Um, and yeah, let's get into. First of all, there are biological implications as to why
Absolutely.
students, especially young men,
Mm-hmm.
make I don't know if I can say this, but dumb decisions. Right? It's a part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason why you don't start making wiser decisions until you're 25. So I'll
That's
let
right.
you share. You're the expert on this.
That's right. That's right. So the human brain technically does not develop until age 25,
Hmm.
right? And prior to that, your prefrontal cortex is kind of leading you around by the
Right.
nose. So impulsivity and impulsive decision making is spur of the moment, what you're
Hmm.
feeling at that moment, not thinking about consequences,
Hmm.
not thinking about who else it affects.
Hmm.
And you said it perfectly before. It could be based on age. It could be, genes,
Hmm.
and it could be maybe there is something cognitive going on.
Hmm.
Maybe
Hmm.
there's an imbalance in the brain or something about
Okay.
that. Compulsivity is a little bit different. I think some of our students struggle with that here as well too. They ruminate about things. They overthink about
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
and it really spirals them into a very dark place.
Hmm.
So either or can be not great places to make decisions.
Hmm.
And in tonight's workshop, we're gonna go over kind of what that should be. So.
I'm excited about that, especially the compulsive piece.
Mm-hmm.
Just Monday,
Mm-hmm.
to be vulnerable, I was thinking about something that happened last Friday,
Mm.
and I had to call up a friend of mine, like, hey, I need you to sit with me for a moment
Mm.
because I keep thinking about this thing and I can't, like, release it.
Mm.
And I needed someone to interrupt the pattern of, that rumination, that constant thinking. Part of it was processing. I feel like I had to process it because I wanted to come to a resolution. And then I
Mm-hmm.
had to come to a resolve that I wouldn't get a resolution around this thing. And so I had to release it. Sorry for using all the R's, but
No, no, it's great.
but that's what I had to do. I'm much older than some of them. Well, not much, but I'm older than these students, and so I can imagine what that's like for a younger person, right? Especially if you're not aware of the inner workings of your own brain and
Mm-hmm.
realizing you are not your thoughts,
That's right.
right? And I'm not the event or the experience that happened to
That's
me.
right.
So there's a lot of separation that needs to happen for you to step away and observe yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
That's a great process that you went through, and that's actually one of the kind of the tools for tonight
mhm,
is having that or a group of people that you can reach out to and say, "Hey, I'm thinking this. Am I bugging?
mhm,
What's going
mhm,
on?
mhm.
And I actually have a close friend that says, "What would Kim do?" So I said,
Yeah.
I'm going to start making some bracelets that say that. But yeah, it's important to have your tribe, right? To have
Mhm.
folks that won't pass judgment, but that can say to you, "Hey, this is a safe space. Let it rip,"
Yeah.
and I'll let you know. But also keeping in mind that that's one person's opinion as well too,
That's right.
because we have friends and family that can be quite biased,
Absolutely.
even though
Absolutely.
we seek them out for advice.
Mhm.
But that's actually one of the tools that we're going to share tonight is have someone that you can call.
I love it.
That have what was that game show? Have that landline or
Who
that.
wants to be a millionaire?
Yes, thank you.
And you get to phone a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They probably don't even know.
No, no, it's before the
We
time.
should show them that at the beginning. There was once upon a time, there was a show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You could phone a friend. Um, so yeah, so I think this concludes our time together. I can't wait for us to spend some time with the students today talking about decision making and get into the nitty gritty of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I have a great exercise where they're gonna each get a scenario and they're gonna have to brainstorm how to
I love it.
figure it out. So it's gonna be good
Okay.
interaction and stuff
Okay.
going on. So thank you for this.
We are excited. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
So glad we could get you on audio. And join us next week for episode 5. We'll be back with Purvis Taylor. And we'll be discussing, what are we talking about? Conflict resolution.
Oof.
Yeah. But we're excited for it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.